Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. So shout out to Dr. Thunder, shout out to the old man Obsidian. How did I miss both of y'all? Shout out to BGS. BGS was streaming earlier, his midday stream, and Mr. Z missed it. I missed Obsidian. Shout out to Mr. Obsidian. I missed Dr. Thunder. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. I miss Ed. Shout out to Ed, Edward Anderson. So we are addressing once again Dr. Umar Johnson, and so the theme, which kind of became somewhat of the de facto theme, um, is something that Obsidian said, and if I'm not mistaken, either BGS said it directly or somewhat said it. You know, that kind of somewhat said it but didn't say it. But pretty much in so many words, which is Dr. Umar doesn't have a pitch. And Obsidian actually just straight up said it, right? Yeah. Well, oh man, Dr. Umar does have a pitch. It's questioning your masculinity and your manhood. It's questioning your masculinity. Are you a real man, Obsidian? Are you a real man, BGS? Are you a real man, Edward Anderson? Are you a real man, Dr. Thunder? And to everybody else that was in the panel or in the chat, are y'all real men? Are y'all real black men? Can you call yourself a real man if you didn't build Wakanda, right? He does have a pitch. The pitch is questioning your masculinity. The pitch is telling you, hey, it doesn't matter what the women do. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter their ill behavior. Infantilize them, treat them like children, because nothing they do is really on them, by the way. Nothing they say, they don't make conscious decisions. You make conscious decisions and they react to your decisions, right? That's what Dr. Umar's pitch is. If you're a real man, you'll build it anyway. And when you build it, they will come. Now we know they may not come giggity in that way, because obviously, once again, they, you know, everything about black male leadership, they're antithetical to that, right? But are you a real man? Are you real men? Are you black men real men, right? Are you black men real men, right? And shout out to Edward Anderson. Keisha just need a little bit of coaching, right? Keisha just needs a little bit of coaching. That's essentially what Dr. Umar went up there to say, right? And once again, shout out to the Daily Wrap-Up crew. So Obsidian, I would argue, is correct. I would argue BGS is correct, right? That we're a force to be reckoned with now. They have to address us. They have to speak to us. They have to acknowledge us from different areas of the black community. Because if you see FD Signifier snooping around and you see Dr. Umar Johnson snooping around, understand they have no choice but to recognize us. They can continue to say we're infinitesimal all they want. They continue all that talk, but they have to recognize us, right? They have no choice. Right? The pitch is to question your masculinity, to question your loyalty to the black community, to question your love of black people. That's the pitch. That's the pitch. You know? So it's and you know, I said that in jest a bit, but let's go back over that. Keisha just need a little bit of coaching. Fundamentally, what we have here is different worldviews, right? There's the Dr. Umar's and some of the hotep and pro-black space that truly believes that the women are acting the way they're acting because black men haven't given them much choice. Black men haven't put them in the most optimal position humanly possible. So we can't complain. Black men can't complain about how how black women comport themselves, and how the children from those single black mothers, how they comport themselves. Black men cannot complain because we did not build Wakanda. And if we would only build Wakanda, if we would just build Wakanda, then black women wouldn't act the way they do because they wouldn't be single mothers, and their children wouldn't act the way they do because those children wouldn't be the product of single mothers. Dr. Umar Johnson completely ignores the fact that black women are drunk off of their own power that white racist society has bestowed to them over the black community. And they would rather rule in the ishpal that is the current black community than play what they feel is second fiddle to black men. Dr. Umar just does not believe that that is a thing at all. He would not think that's a thing in majority. He doesn't think that at least half of black women think that. He doesn't think a significant minority of black women think and feel that way. The pitch is to sell you the soap. Dr. Umar, whether he's being genuine or not, wants to sell you the soap. And I understood what BGS was saying. I get what BGS was saying, right? That he actually does know better. I understand. He's still trying to sell you the soap. As someone said in the panel, yeah, Dr. Umar has 2 children and is not married. He knows what this is. He knows what this is. He knows what he's dealing with. He knows. He's telling you to alpha your way through it anyway. Yes, Obsidian, brother Obsidian, yes. Alpha your way through it anyway. And I saw Ed in the comments asking what the ages of the daily wrap-up crew are. I don't think none of them brothers is older than 35, if even. I think they're still. I think some of them brothers might even still be in their 20s, late 20s, maybe early 30s at most, right? Early 30s at most. Fundamentally, Dr. Umar does not think that black women are autonomous adults. As I said in my previous stream, my rant, right? What Dr. Umar wants to sell you is, what about the children? Right? That's what Dr. Umar wants to sell you. What about the children? Dr. Umar makes the same argument that the misandrous, mainly black left makes. The swirlers and the divest make. There are not enough black men, good quality black men to choose from. That's the argument. As I said, it's very interesting. Once it comes time to start defecating and chastise black men, look at all the strange bedfellows. All the people y'all think are diametrically opposed, look how quick they're actually not. Because really, Dr. Umar made pretty much, and I think I can't remember who called it, but one of the brothers pretty much called it also on the panel. Dr. Umar Johnson's making the same argument Ebony K. Williams is making. He's couching it differently. And I think Dr. Thunder caught that also. He's couching it differently, but he's making the same argument that Ebony K. Williams is making. Right? His one real gripe with maybe some black women is the whole swirler and divester talk. But outside of that, the defecating and beating up on black men and couching it as constructive criticism. Oh yeah, he's all for that. The entire black community outside of the black manosphere is pretty much all for that. Especially if you can couch it as constructive criticism and tough love, heavy on the criticism part. Oh yeah, pretty much the entire black community is for that. Right? Look at the issues where black people that tend to be diametrically opposed, look at when they agree. Kim Foster, who mocks Hotep people, look at her and Dr. Umar Johnson agreeing. Right? Dr. Umar and Ebony probably couldn't sit in the same space for 5 seconds, but look at them agreeing. Yeah, it is the black man. Yeah, it is the black man. That's the pitch. The pitch is, do you still want the black community to keep on talking down the black? Just build Wakanda. Just build it. Shh. What? Just in. Black men kind of already did. Black women just refused to walk in the goddamn door. Oh, shh. Right? See, if you would just build Wakanda, that's your way of, he should just need a little bit of coaching. Shout out to Edward Anderson. Right? And Detroit says, and thank you for the super chat, coming from Angry Man channel, he's speaking as now about Dr. Johnson. Okay, Dr. Umar Johnson. Okay. Thank you for actually coming in, Detroit, over Angry Man. Nah. Right? And shout out to the brother Angry Man also. Right? Wow. Right? Wow. So I agree with this is more of a exercise in rhetoric, right? Because I overall agree with Obsidian, but what I'm saying is no, Dr. Umar does have the pitch. The pitch is to question your masculinity and your manhood. Right? The pitch is to sell the black community to you. Well, if you would just build Wakanda, then we wouldn't have these problems. If we could just raise a bunch of black boys and black men to ignore BFF, right? Obsidian know what I'm talking about. He's the one I hear use the phrase the most, right? If we could just raise a generation or two or three or forever of black boys and men to just ignore BFF because you're so influential and powerful in the black community, the little bit of griping that Keisha does, it's not that serious when it is that serious. That's why they can't not only get or keep a black man, they can't get or keep any man. That's a whole different conversation. Well, actually, they can get, imagine this. Black men actually doing better in many ways than black women. And yet black women are the ones leaving black men. They're leaving the stable situations. Imagine that. In other words, you gave them the small boat off of the Titanic, right? You gave them the life raft off of the Titanic. And they move as far away from the life raft as humanly possible, drown, and then somehow it's still black men's fault. Train tracks. Imagine that. They jump off the small boat and somehow it's still black men's fault. They commit social self-deletion, political and economic, definitely economic self-deletion, and somehow it's black men's fault, right? So yes, BGS, Obsidian, all the other brothers that were on the panel, Dr. Thunder, yes, Obsidian, excuse me, Dr. Umar does have a pitch. It's to question your manhood and your masculinity. It's a question whether you really care about the black community. It's the question whether you rather see Keisha hurt than you see the black community uplift, right? See, let me use this line from Paris Malone. Paris Malone once said about certain black women in their kind of hate black man sphere. It's like y'all hate black men more than y'all love black women. Well, Mr. Z is gonna remix that a little bit and say what it sounded like Dr. Umar is saying is it seems like y'all want to see Keisha hurt more than y'all love the black community and love other black people and care about other black people. And to Dr. Umar, I say, if that's what you see, because black men are tired of being the cleanup man for no, as a matter of fact, I was going to say no recognition. It's actually worse than no recognition. You're the cleanup man and you're actually chastised. You're the cleanup man and you're actually clowned. You're the cleanup man and you're actually told that's what you were supposed to do. And guess what? She's going to break another glass. On purpose, by the way. What's the one of the recent videos that came out with a brother paid for the wedding and the other man walked the daughter down the aisle? The biological father, this is the man who raised her, this is the man who paid for the wedding, and everybody treated him like he was overreacting, right? Side note, y'all gonna, and shout out to, I think it was it Toya who said, I think I read the comment, it was like, I love Mrs. E's random, she said random something, but essentially you're saying like random things that I bring up in the conversation. Because yeah, I saw that when that story first dropped, but it's right now is the perfect time to bring that up. Yeah, Mr. Z saw that. Right? And that's essentially what Dr. Umar Johnson is asking, or not even asking, demanding that black men in majority in the black community engage in. Pay for the wedding and let some other dude walk your daughter. Let's call a thing a thing. Yeah, biologically, that daughter belongs to him. If you paid for the wedding, if she lived under your roof, if you kept her housed and fed, that's your daughter. His daughter biologically, that's your daughter. You helped with homework. You might have been the one to teach her how to ride a bike. You might have been the one to teach her how to drive. You went to those open houses for school. That's your daughter. His daughter biologically, that's your daughter. And what Dr. Umar is saying is Dr. Umar would be one of the other brothers like, no, brother, no. You got to remember that, yeah, you did all of that. We're not even, as men, we focus on the money aspect. Yes, understandable. 100%. We focus on the time aspect. Absolutely understandable, right? Men, logical, right? But all of that energy, right? Women want to talk about emotional labor. All of that emotional labor, right? All of the energy invested, all of the time invested, before we get to the resources, right? And Dr. Umar is telling black men who do stuff like that more than any other group of men in America, arguably on the planet. Black American men, Dr. Umar Johnson tells you, yeah, but, right? Dr. Umar is saying, yeah, but Keisha just need a little bit of coaching, right? And KW Don says, and thank you for the super chat. Umar was complaining about not being able to see his youngest daughter without supervision, shaking my damn head. And you see, I didn't even know that was a thing. If that's truly a thing, right? And wow, look at all these people once again that agree. Black men are the most stepdaddy group of people in America. And Dr. Umar saying, yeah, not enough. And Keisha exists with her. Keisha exists as a single mother because black men aren't doing enough. It's not because she's being rebellious to black male leadership. And this is the consequence of her not probably only destroying the situation with the child's father, but then with other subsequent men that probably came around to clean up. Not once, not twice. Yo, we all seen it in the hood. If Keisha got a good enough body, if she's cute enough, maybe even if she isn't, she will end up in a situation with one brother, get pregnant from him, end up in a situation with another brother, get pregnant from him, maybe another brother. And guess what? Can't stay around any of them. And every man after that, children or not, she can't stay with them. Right? She cannot stay with them. But somehow, what Dr. Umar Johnson is saying, it's not the common denominator in Keisha, in the woman, in the black woman. No, 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 no. It's all of those brothers for not making it work with her. Now, never mind the fact that black men are married more than black women, both straight and gay. Never mind that black men in same-sex loving relationships have a lower DV rate than black women in same-sex loving relationships. Never mind that. Right? And if KW Don is to be believed, never mind the fact that Dr. Umar Johnson is going through it now, right? With the system, never mind any of that. It's you, black man, because you haven't built Wakanda. It's you, black man, because if you would build Wakanda, then what would Ebony K. Williams have to say? Right? Divorcee, right? The toy for a white man. See, if you black men were really about it, then guess what? Ebony K. Williams would have a home right now. Right? Ebony K. Williams would have a home right now. See, if y'all didn't sound the way y'all did, black men, if y'all would just build Wakanda, then Chrissy wouldn't have anything to say. Yanni would be what? A kept woman of leisure, right? Married, right? Never mind the fact that people like Paris are married to a Nigerian brother with that looks like he's at least way more than stable, but she's still making YouTube videos talking crap about you. Never mind that part. Never mind that part. Nope. Right? See, the pitch is to question your manhood and your masculinity and whether you actually care about being black and whether you care about other black people. The pitch, it's a weird backwards way of saying, well, you know, if we would have just built Wakanda, if we would have just built utopia, then this wouldn't exist. It only exists because black men haven't built utopia. The dysfunction in the black community only exists because black men won't man up. And when it comes to that comment right there, the people y'all think who do not agree with each other, they agree on that. If nappy-headed jojoba is agreeing with Dr. Umar Johnson, and Dr. Umar Johnson is getting real eerily familiar and similar sounding to Ebony K. Williams, which means that he's getting real eerily similar sounding to Kim Foster, and Chrissy is in agreement, and Yanni is in agreement. Now, will you look at that? Right? Now, will you look at that? Huh. And the 18th letter says, and thank you for the super chat. First, Rebecca Lynn Pope, pandering. Now Umar wants black men to keep being unpaid janitors while black women keep using plausible deniability. And that's all it is. Black women are actually getting what they want within the black community, which is the ability to play damsel in distress. And Dr. Umar, whether he actually is being a genuine actor here or he's just playing the game and pandering. Shout out to AB Media for calling him Panda Bear, right? Dr. Umar is just going along with it, actually pushing some of this forward. They're actually getting to play damsel in distress. They're actually getting to play the, you know what, I didn't make a conscious decision to go against black male leadership. It's not that I'm drunk off of this power that I have over the black community. That's not the issue, because I would give up the reins of power if black men would just build Wakanda or utopia. I would give it up, right? Isn't that the same thing we hear from them, all the churchgoers? I have no problem letting a man lead if he's deserving, if he shows me that he's competent. Well, Dr. Umar is using that same type of rhetoric. That's the pitch. The pitch is to insult you and see if that'll make you move. To question your manhood and to see if that'll make you move. To question your masculinity and to see if that'll make you move. Right? And shout out to the 18th letter, unpaid janitors. Unpaid janitors. Right? And the Raj report says, and thank you for the super chat, Raj. And the Raj report says, y'all better rescue them, quote unquote, queens. Don't you dare call yourself a man until you've rescued at least one of them, queens. You know what, Raj? I'll add on to that. I don't think Dr. Umar Dr. Umar wants you. You know what? We kind of mocked, was it Sherry Shepherd? We kind of mocked her when she was essentially advocating for rent-a-husband. We actually made fun of her. Dr. Umar is saying the same thing. Dr. Umar is essentially saying the same thing, that you should be a married brother and you should still kind of be at the beck and call of the rando women in the black community. The random rogue women in the black, you should kind of be at their beck and call still. And there's a conversation to be had about what is a community if you're not looking out for others. But there's also a conversation to be had, Dr. Umar Johnson, about rogue women who destroy every relationship they are in, whether it's straight or same-sex loving, and then still want a black man to save them, right? What did Fab say? Fabulous had a line in one of his songs where he said, and excuse my language, niggas will burn the bridge and want you to send a boat, right? The black women we're speaking about will burn the bridge and then want you to send a boat. Will torch the boat and then want you to send another boat, right? And thank you once again, Raj, for the super chat. Oh, well, Raj backs it up with a $5 super chat. It says, you got to read my first super chat in your Dr. Umar voice. I don't know if I have a Dr. Umar voice. I don't have a Dr. Umar, right? But look, Mr. Z would love to sit down with someone like Dr. Umar Johnson and him explain to me how this works. Because it hasn't. Uh-oh. How this supposed to work? Right? Because it hasn't worked. Questioning black men's masculinity and manhood, how is this supposed to work? Questioning whether you actually care about the black community, how is this supposed to work? Right? And Cameron S is social worker tax. Hysterical. Right? Wow. So understand all of these people, and that's a theme I want to continue to propagate. And I actually started saying that a bit of it on Obsidian's channel, funny enough, when I was like, all these people, all these women like Kim Foster are left leaning as hell until it comes time to talk about black men, then they sound like super conservatives, right? You add on to that all of these people disagree so much in the black community. They make fun of each other and they mock each other. But one thing they're in agreement with, the black man is the problem. That's one thing they have consensus on. The black man is the problem, right? Huh. So that's the pitch, right? I know Obsidian was waiting on the pitch. BGS, well, BGS understands this a little bit better because he's actually interviewed Dr. Umar, right, in real life. But that's the pitch. We've been there. You ain't a real man. You know, in the black community, we like to question black men's masculinity and their manhood when we try to get them to move a certain way. Right. And once again, you know, thanks again for the social worker tax, Cameron. Right. You know I'm gonna have to now, right? And Mr. Shook to you says, picturing Z practicing Umar voice in the mirror. Now I'm gonna have to. Right? Right. The prince of the King Kong of Pan-Africanism. Right. And I don't even, you know, when the brother was saying that and people were mocking him, Mr. Z was not one of the people that was mocking him. When him and Tariq were going back and forth, I didn't make a comment on that at all. At all. Right. I've had private conversations with brothers, part of the Black Manosphere. Y'all know Mr. Z is not ADOS, and I've let ADOS brothers in the Black Manosphere know where I stand, right? And y'all could kind of glean where I stand between the Tariq and Yvette and Tone Talks, conversation. But when it was when people were mocking and making fun of Dr. Umar and whatever situation, and Tariq Nasheed is making fun of whatever was on his lip and one of the um hidden colors, etc., etc. Mr. Z stayed out of that. I had nothing to say about that, right? But for Dr. Umar to try to bogart the space and say, no, the problem is us. Oh no. Oh no. And I'm gonna pause right here. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Give me 1 second. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can do this. Um, huh. Yeah, let me try to do this real quick. I'm gonna do something different, maybe kind of. Let's see if it works. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Okay. Yeah. So, question Black men's masculinity and manhood. That's the pitch, you know. And we've all had, you have coaches that do it. You have Black women that do it. You have fathers and uncles that do it. The overall Black community does it. Question Black men's masculinity and manhood from when you're a teenager on up. Not even when you're a teenager. When you're a boy, you strong, right? You're not weak. You're not a little girl, right? Now you 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, 50 something, 60 something. And Dr. Umar thinks that can work on you. Look, shout out to all these brothers that keep on you, and then just the Black community in general, who keep on making these old arguments. Old, right? Like I said, shout out to Obsidian for calling Rebecca Lynn Pope out, because I thought the same thing I'm like, are these 90s arguments Rebecca Lynn Pope is using? She sounds like she fell out the 90s. Dr. Umar is engaging in the same thing. Wait, you think that moves young Xers, millennials, and Gen Z? You think questioning their manhood, implying that they're same-sex loving, you think that, wait, y'all think that work? Did it even work in the 90s? Let's say it did. Let's say it did work in the 80s and the 90s and the early aughts. You think it still works? Right? You think that still works? The Roger Report, Roguish, these brothers are young Xers. Ask them if that works on them, let alone a millennial like Z or Charles, let alone let alone some of you Gen Z brothers, right? Right? And y'all give me a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. Give Mr. Z 1 second, right? Give Mr. Z 1 second. And Mr. Z is back, and Mr. Z is back. And better use is, and thank you for the super chat. Better use is, keep in mind, Umar practices IFA. From the people I know that practice it, has it heavy matriarchal influence. Not surprising. He's a objective on women. Look, some of that Earth Mother Goddess, et cetera, like, yeah, that sound nice, but like black men ain't just young black men especially. And like when I say young, I'm really saying under the age of 50. They're not going. They're just not. They're not going. When you have people like, and for some of us that have been here forever, when you have people like Sarge Willie Pete on one end, right? And Avenue Rants on the other end, two completely different upbringings. And they're in agreement, right? Then you got an issue, right? You got an issue, right? The upbringing matters. The environment matters. You know? So y'all give Mr. Z, we're gonna take a commercial, non-commercial break. Y'all give Mr. Z 1 minute. All right, everybody, give Mr. Z 1 minute. So you see, this is the pitch. Mr. Z's back. Mr. Z is back. That's the pitch. The pitch is to question your manhood and masculinity. The pitch is to question whether you actually care about your legacy as a black person, whether you care about other black people, right? Whether you care about black children, whether you care about them enough to overlook and ignore Keisha's behavior. And I want to be very clear. This is not about spiting black women. This is not about, air quotes, punishing black women. It is to say this is the environment. And there's a lot leading to where we are now. There's a lot that led to where we are now. And what Dr. Umar is saying, well, yeah, no, it's really on you, because she wouldn't act like the way she does if it wasn't for you, black men. including some young brothers that, once again, like Sarge Willie Pete was saying, that weren't even around for any of this. This is that was it wasn't a who was it? Was it Tank with the Maybe I Deserve song? Right? This is a collective. Dr. Umar is attempting to sing a collective, maybe I deserve. Maybe black men deserve this because you ain't Bill Wakanda. This is, you know what this is? We talk about white guilt. Much of this is like black men's feeling, particularly Western black men, feeling of guilt for slavery. Oh, Mr. Z, you went there. Yes, Mr. Z did. Uh oh. That's what it is. She's acting the way she's acting because we weren't able to protect her during slavery. Before slavery, right? We weren't able to protect her. That's why she sounds the way she does. That's the idea. That's the idea. Huh. And yes, there are plenty of black men that sign up for that, right? As a matter of fact, BGS covered was it an article or was it a research paper that spoke to that on why black men seem to be okay with interracial marriage with black women because there's a feeling of guilt there, like she's moving on up, right? She's moving on up. We understand, right? And excuse my background, everyone. And Oliver the Gray says, and thank you for the super chat. Don't dare bring up that sap ass song, right? He says, don't bring up that sap song up. Um, and for those of you that don't know, sap is like it's a very aggressive South Florida way of saying lame, loser. Shout out to you, New York brothers. Bum ass. That's just another way of saying that. That's more of a South Florida. Well, I don't know if other people in the country use sap, but yeah, right, yeah. So that's these are ways that we have tended to get black men to move. These are ways that we have tended to motivate black men by questioning their manhood and their masculinity. And this and you know, larger male society by questioning their manhood and their masculinity. And this is what goes for motivational speech, right? This is what passes for motivational speech. So we definitely have to be honest that, you know, this is the pitch. Once again, you know, shout out to Obsidian, shout out to BGS, Dr. Thunder, Ed, all the other brothers that were part of the panel, and different people in the comments. This is the pitch. This is the pitch, right? I know Obsidian was like, there was no pitch. No, brother Obsidian, I tend to disagree. This was the pitch. You're a real man, right? If you're a real man, you do this anyway. If you care about the black community, you will do this anyway. What's this? Bill Wakanda, right? Ignore Keisha's behavior, right? And KW Dances, and thank you for the super chat. KW Dances, Umar is trying to get black men to be collectivists to support black women who remain individualistic. And I don't know if Dr. Umar fully appreciates, or if he does, this might be even what I'm engaging in, and might be just a rhetorical question, but I don't know if Dr. Umar fully appreciates the fact that black women actually kind of like this. Enough black women, at least, kind of like this because of the power, because of the control of the black community, because of their idea of freedom and liberty, right? I don't know if he fully appreciates that. And y'all give Mr. Z 1 minute. Work related stuff. Y'all give Mr. Z 1 minute. All right, y'all. Z is back. Z is back. And look, I actually really want to address what KW Don is saying here. You know, particularly on the left, we talk about community a lot. Oh, we talk about community a lot, right? You hear Julesy talking community. You hear Nappy Headed Hoba talking community. You hear Kim Foster talking community. You hear FD Signifier talking community. We use that word on the left a whole lot. But then it comes time to talk about black men, particularly straight black men. And we see these same people start playing with and entertaining pull yourself up by your bootstraps type language directed towards black men. Though we making it, we're here. Why aren't black men here? Right? It's interesting when we decide to speak community. Right? It's interesting when we want to levy community standards at each other. Right? When we want people to actually think collectivist, as KW Don says. Huh. But the second it's time to talk about black men, it's what have black men built, what have black men done. We understand systemic oppression, We understand that right up until it's time to start talking about black men and boys. And Dr. Umar actually does a better job at speaking about the education system and how that's screwing particularly black boys. But then when those black boys become black men who got screwed by the system and by their mothers, oops, those men are supposed to somehow magically have the wherewithal to hold up the entire sky. That they're supposed to have the inclination, they're supposed to have the motivation, they're supposed to have the ability and the skill to hold up the entire sky so that black women could bask in their individuality under it. Wait a minute, isn't like that the same type of thing that Yanni and them are advocating for? Well, will you look at that? Well, will you look at that? Huh. Fascinating. Fascinating. Look at what these people are actually in agreement with. Or an agreement on, better yet, an agreement on. And once again, shout out to Edward Anderson. Keisha just needed a little bit of coaching. Yeah, that's it. That's the issue. Right? So yes, KW Don, it is very interesting, right? I'm sorry about that, y'all. Mr. Z's background, Mr. Z's background. But yeah, it's very interesting. Black men think of the community. Black women, go ahead and sit down and put your feet up. You've been doing too much anyway, right? You've been doing way too much of the heavy lifting anyway. So on that note, we'll pause right there. I don't want to make this too long. We're coming up on an hour. I'm just a little disappointed in myself. Mr. Z had to sleep. And that of course that's when BGS streams and I miss it. But shout out to once again to everybody that was on the panel. Dr. Thunder, obviously BGS for starting up the stream. Ed, all the other brothers that were a part of the panel. Yeah. Everybody that was in the chat. But I agree with I'm saying a lot, but I actually do agree with BGS that Dr. Umar knows exactly what he's doing, and this is he's playing what he feels is the game. That doesn't mean that I do think that Dr. Umar does care about the black community. I don't question that. I do think that he does actually care about black boys and men. I don't think that he's fretting on that. I don't think he's pretending. I do think he actually does. But pandering to black women, hey, pandering to black women. And let's end out on that note, because somebody brought up Kevin on BGS's channel, and I just wanted to end out on that note. When Dr. Umar, at least the one interview that I saw, when he was questioned about Kevin Samuels, he said he had a problem with Kevin Samuels' superficiality, etc., but words going along that vein, as if he didn't see the women calling up being superficial and coming out the gate speaking about money, speaking about lifestyle, right? Judging black men through a very neoliberal lens, as if they didn't understand what Kevin Samuel's show was, and why they were calling. They were looking for a lifestyle. They're still looking for a lifestyle. And for many, this one may not be all, but for many women, particularly black women, if I can't have the lifestyle, then screw your stability. Screw your manhood if I can't have the lifestyle. That's Ebony K. Williams right now. That's Kim Foster right now. Now we know she's in a relationship, but that's Kim Foster right now. That's Ebony K. Williams right now. That's Yanni right now. I continue to say this. I will continue to say this. Don't miss the part of Iyanla taking everything, all the excuses off the table. We're not talking about a man sitting on his couch playing video games. We're talking about a good brother, cares about his family, cares about this, cares about that. And guess what? It didn't matter. Right? It didn't matter. Right? Right? So let's make sure that we remember that. Kevin Samuels showed that every night. And that's who Dr. Umar Johnson thinks and feels black men haven't done enough for. Right? And D says, I think they wanted attention. Yes, for some. Yes, for some. For some of those ladies. But for a lot of them, it was just advertising themselves to who they think was watching, the baller men. And they were telling you what they really thought. Just because she dates you and just because she throws you some vagina does not mean she doesn't have her eyes looking outside because her goal is someone else. And I think Dr. Umar either, I can't say he doesn't realize, it's difficult for me to say that about, and actually mean it, not just a phrase, but actually mean that Dr. Umar doesn't realize this. I think Dr. Umar realizes exactly what Mr. Z has been saying, even though I've phrased it that way. I think he's just pandering. I think he understands where his bread is buttered, and he might understand even more than many black men in the black community how much, you know, throwing black men under the bus, questioning black men's masculinity and manhood actually is something that black women appreciate. Right? So on that note, we'll truly end right there. You know, we're over an hour now. Um, Once again, everybody, thank you for listening in. I just wanted to give my kind of 2 cents, because when Obsidian spoke about the pitch, I was like, brother, on point, right? And I actually have to, I really want to interview Obsidian. I was actually thinking that while listening to BGS's stream earlier. Um, yeah, and eventually Angry Man, right? And if I could be the one person to actually have a conversation with Sarge Willie Pete, that'd be great also, right? So we'll truly pause right there. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Y'all have a great rest of y'all night. Please, for the love of God, check out Black manosphere content, and y'all know what I like to say. Please, non-manosphere content also. I don't want us to be like how many of the women are in their spaces that really don't know much of anything outside of Black men ain't-ish, right? They don't actually appreciate what's going on in the world. For many of them, life is just happening to them, right? So I want us to be aware and abreast of what's going on in the world around us. That's why I always encourage us to check out non-manosphere content, news, documentaries, lectures about just everything, right? Everything from history to politics to economics, right? What's going on now, everything, the current goings on, right? All of that. So truly, I'll pause right here. Y'all have a great rest of your night, and Mr. Z out. All right, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your night, and thank you for listening in. I had to say this part. Spain man, UFO whistleblowers, good one, right? Hey, Mr. Z is lightly following that story also. Lightly. All right, y'all. Y'all have a great rest of your night.